Okay, now we're going to look how to use some of these formulas. I'm going to start with an easier one. We can have some are very straightforward because they're going to give you, let's look at number 6. They're going to give you the picture, they're going to tell you what to find, and you're going to have everything you need to substitute into the formula. So let's take a look. This is a cylinder. If I don't know that, it's not going to affect me on this problem because I have a picture. So I go and I find the one that looks like my picture. Then I see what I want, lateral area, LA. You have an abbreviation box that helps you with some of these. LA is the lateral area. So I'm going to write down my lateral area formula. Okay, so once I'm ready to substitute into my formula, I'm going to want to know what these variables are, right? So because I have 2 pi, and then I have to plug an r in here and an h in here. So if I have any concern as to which was which, I'm going to look at my formula sheet. Now you can turn your paper, the formula sheet, so it's in the same orientation, but the radius is the same as it always is with a circle. The radius is the distance from the center out. Okay, be careful if they give you a diameter, cut it in half. If they don't. So this is a radius because it's showing from the center to the side of that circle. So my radius is going to be 2, and then my height in a cylinder and all prisms and pyramids, when I have 2 bases, it's easy to find because it's the distance between the 2 bases. A height and a base are perpendicular. So then I look at my picture and I realize that 7 is my height. And now I'm just ready to substitute 2 pi, my radius was 2, and my height was 7. Now you can put this all directly into your calculator. Many students do that, which is totally fine. It's more meaningful really because it's a decimal approximation. Alright, so 2 pi times 2 times 7. This is all multiplication, right? Enter. Now if I push pi on my calculator, I'm going to get the decimal approximation as I mentioned. So this is about, the directions say the nearest hundredth, so that's 2 decimal places. My next digit is a 4, it's small, so leave it alone. 96 hundredths. Okay, and I'm talking about area, so this is square meters. So that's my answer. I just want to point out that sometimes, especially in the event you have a multiple choice question, they might leave it in terms of pi. So a lot of times students will look at multiple choice answers and say, oh my gosh, I didn't get it right, I don't know what I did wrong. In terms of pi, 2 times 2 times 7 is 28. So watch, in terms of pi, we wouldn't be pushing pi. So you might see this answer choice and say, oh, this isn't my answer, but if there's a pi there, they haven't multiplied. There you go. Okay, it's the same answer. So in terms of pi, that would be 27 pi. So there's my answer for that one. Now let's try one that might be a little bit more complicated. The pyramids tend to be complicated formulas for some students because it's a multi-step. Okay, but after a couple practice problems, you'll be fine. So let's try one. So again, I have a picture, so this is not hard to find which picture I go to. It's a pyramid. My directions are telling me surface area, so I go to SA because my abbreviation box says surface area is SA. So pyramid, surface area. Write down my formula. So here we go. Now remember, the surface area is the area of all the sides, including the base, which makes this formula make sense. Okay, the lateral area is right here. So my lateral area, half of LP plus capital B, which my abbreviation box tells me is the area base. So that formula should make sense. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Alright, I start by looking at my picture. If I'm unsure what the heck is L, what a length, in your pyramid, and I wrote this on our sheet right here. Okay, so let's look at this actually. So right now I'm doing a pyramid, so I have notes here for the pyramid. So L, in the event I did not have a picture, I would need to understand that my L is what's called a slant height. And you'll find a slant height in a pyramid and in a cone. Okay, so L is called the slant height. They do not have that in the abbreviation box. Also in your cone and pyramids, the L and the H. Okay, so L is your slant height. Your H is your regular height. And in a pyramid, just like a cone, that height, the regular height, which is perpendicular to the base, will land right smack in the middle. So that's a radius in a cone. We don't call this a radius, but it's going to have the same effect. And what you need to understand is that L and H are sides of a right triangle. So that opens up Pythagorean theorem in your cones and pyramids. So here's what I mean. Right here, you can see it on your formula sheet. If you look at the cone, it's easy to see. When you look at the pyramid, it's not as easy, but you could draw it in there. Okay, and these are right triangles. So if you're missing something you need, Pythagorean theorem will be helpful. So going back to, here I am, I'm doing my pyramid. La-di-da, L, what is that? Oh, well, it's in my picture. I don't need to really know what it's called. It's right here. That's the edge they gave me right here. So I'm going to plug that in. Now, P. P and B. So I'm going to go back to the one that I made notes on. P and B, those have to do with, well, okay, so first of all, this picture, there's something I don't like here. Capital B is on the picture. It's on the pyramid that I see here. So a lot of students, one mistake they make with this is they want to find a number here, whether they use 3 or I see some other crazy things students do. If you're not clear, also check the abbreviation box. Now both P and B are in the box. P and B. P though just says perimeter. Now that doesn't make any sense to me in a three-dimensional object. Up here, if I'm looking at, say, my rectangle, I understand what that is. 2 lengths plus 2 widths. Okay, perimeter is distance around a flat two-dimensional object. But in a pyramid, what does that mean? So again, I'm going to come back to my sheet here. Both P and B are going to have to do with the base. So P and B will tell you right here in the abbreviation box that it's the area of the base. P just says perimeter, so you need to understand that they mean the perimeter of the base. So B is area of the base, and P is perimeter of the base. So what that means is that in both a pyramid and a prism, I have to picture picking that shape up and looking at the base and asking myself, how do I find the perimeter or the area of that shape? In a prism, by the way, you do the same thing. You have 2 bases. So the P and the B also refer to, in this situation, it would be the triangle. Okay, so going back to my pyramid, back to my problem, I'm going to need to look at my base for these. So let's take our pyramid, pick it up, and look at the base. Okay, here's a pyramid, pick it up, turn it over, look at what shape the base is. By the way, this is a little tool I have for showing that right triangle that your regular height and your slant height make. Okay. So back to this problem, I'm gonna look at, let's do it on here. So what shape is my base? Pick this up, look at that. Oh, it's a square. See those 2 edges? 3 and 3. So what some students find easier is if they come over here to the side of their paper, they draw their base, which is a square pyramid, and they find P and capital B, and then come back here and finish the problem. So P, if you don't know how to find the perimeter of a square, you can actually look at the top of your formula sheet. A square is a rectangle, so you could use this one, but this one makes more sense since I'm dealing with a square. So perimeter equals 4S. What's S? Oh, S is a side of my square. So looking at my picture here, here's one side, okay, 4 times S. So I'm going to do 4 times my side was 3, and I get 12. Now I need to find capital B. So again, capital B stands for area of base So my base, I pick up my shape, I look at my square, I look up here, area. So capital B actually means area, so we're going to use this formula. The area of the base is going to be the side squared, side times side. Again, a square is a rectangle, so length times width. Okay, they're both 3. So side squared, or 3 squared, 9. And now I'm ready to finish substituting. I already substituted L right here. Now I'm ready to substitute P. I got 12. And now I'm ready to substitute into capital B, which I got 9 for. Okay, now these parentheses I don't really need when I'm entering on my calculator. But at this point I'm ready to put the whole thing on my calculator. Okay, I like to write out my whole formula, like do that first, my setup, and then I go to my calculator. So 1/2 times 3.4, this is all multiplication, parentheses will work here, times 12 plus 9. Alright, and that's my answer. This said 100th, which is kind of weird because this is a terminating decimal. It stops in the 10th place. If you're, really following your directions there, technically you would give the surface area as being 29.4, and since it says 100th, technically I should put a 0 there. Now, yards, area is measured in square units, so this would be square yards. Okay, that's my answer. The last one I want to do with you is I want to look at, how do I do these when it's not so straightforward? For example, word problem. Oh my gosh, there's no picture. I made some of these multiple choice to talk about problem-solving strategies of working backwards, but we won't need it for number 7. So I look at number 7, and some students, in particular my language learners, this is a little tougher for, but you might freak out, but calm down. Look for, what dimensions did they give me? What shape did they say it is? They did not use vocabulary here, okay, as far as prism, cylinder, cone, they didn't use those words. But they said box, a sandbox. So even if you don't know what a sandbox is, okay, you know that most boxes, hopefully, you're kind of leaning towards your rectangular prism. Now, there's another dead giveaway that this is going to be my shape. They gave me 3 dimensions. They said 5 feet by 3 feet by 1 feet. And they didn't tell me what is what. The only shape on this formula sheet where you're not really able to define what they are is the rectangular prism, the length, width, and height. Traditionally your height's going to be how tall. The length and width, depending on how you're looking at it. Some students think length is always the long one. It doesn't matter. In your rectangular prism, it is not going to matter whether or not you make, 5, the length, the width, or the height. It's not going to matter. What matters, though, in one of the formulas, the second one, is that you are consistent when you're substituting. So my recommendation, once you decide that this is going to be your rectangular prism, write down what you want each one to be. And again, it doesn't matter. Maybe you made your height 5. It doesn't matter. Now I need to decide which formula I'm going to use. And again, they didn't tell me. There's no, nothing here says volume or surface area. Notice on our rectangular prism, remember, if we can't define a base, we're not going to have a lateral area formula. So at least I didn't have to use that one. So with only a volume and an area, there's 2 ways I could find what they're asking me. One is to understand what each one of those finds, because they give a very clear indicator here by using the word filling. I'm putting things on the inside. Okay? So some of you may already be thinking about one of those. If you're still unsure, cubic feet. Look at my unit of measure. Okay? That has to be volume. The only thing that we measure with a cube, so going back to my formula sheet here that I wrote some notes on, the volume is measured in cubes. So now that I've determined which shape and what formula, I'm going to write it down and find it. length times width times height. So if I didn't assign these, you almost can't screw this one up because you just put each one of them in here one time. If you were doing surface area, you'd have to be a lot more careful, and that's why I recommend identifying which each one of those is going to be. So 5 times 3 times 1, and 15 is going to be my answer.